in there.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to share one of the Ozarks' great state parks, Ha-Ha-Tonka. And this state park has a lot of rich history also. I figured since we all live in Missouri, that it'd be a good thing to learn about this national treasure that we have here. Okay, so first of all we have the history that begins with the Indians. The Indians first lived in this area. It was the big bluff on top of a natural spring, so of course it was a good place to make a home. And then you go on to the explorers, and you have the great Daniel Boone who came through. And then we have, in the 1890s, we have Robert Scott who come in, and he wanted to survey the land to make a railroad to go through. Well, of course this failed, but since he fell in love with all the great bluffs and you know, all the natural beauty of the place and natural springs, he decided that he wanted to buy the property. So he goes back to his home and he talks with his partner. And his partner is Kellogg. And so him and Kellogg go together and they buy this piece of land. And they start a, I guess you'd say like kind of a village, and they called it Gunther Springs. And this was in 1894. And then, so they lived there for a while, and Scott, he wanted to pick a name that would actually show the beauty of the place Gunther Springs. So he thought about it, and then he went with an old Osage Indian phrase, Ha-Ha-Tonka, which means laughing waters, which is also referring to the gushing springs that Ha-Ha-Tonka has to offer. And in here we can see that there's the springs here, and then we also have a big map of everything that you can do at this place with your family. Okay, so as we travel on through some more history of Ha-Ha-Tonka, we're going to go into 1903 when Robert McClure Snyder buys this. He comes down with this family and he fishes. He just absolutely falls in love with it. So he buys this property, 1,500 acres, and he decides, I want to build my dream home here. And he is a very rich businessman from Kansas City. So in 1905 he starts to build a mansion, you would say, and this mansion is 3.5 stories, about 60 rooms, and it only cost him $40,000 to build. And he hires an architect, Van Buren from Kansas City, to design this home for him. But during his design and the building, a very bad accident occurs. And in 1906, there was a tragedy. Snyder was killed in one of the first car accidents in Missouri. And of course he was the first person to own a car also in Missouri. And he was killed instantly in this car accident. And so therefore his estate was left to his oldest son to finish. So his oldest son, he started taking over his father's responsibilities and was trying to finish his father's home for him. Although they ran into a lot of problems with lawsuits, dealing with the Bagnell Dam issues, and there were several others. The family ended up losing their fortune. They lost their fortune due to there were people that said it was not fair for this family to own all this natural property and the natural springs that Warsaw, or that Ha-Ha-Tonka had to offer. They didn't think that somebody should own it. Although the Snyder family took all their family fortune and they spent it all trying to fight this, but eventually they did lose. Eventually this mansion on top of this bluff became a hotel. After a while this was abandoned, and this is when Missouri came into play on this one. And let's see. In 1942, the hotel actually caught on fire from one of the fireplaces in the home, and it burned everything. Burned the stables, the cottage, just everything on the property, the mansion, everything. Only thing left was the water tower, and there was a big 80-foot water tower there. So then in 1976, this area just started getting vandalized, and they vandalized it so badly that they burned the tower down as well, and any other remaining buildings that was on the property. So then in 1978, the state of Missouri was able to actually occupy this land, and they have been bringing it back, reserving it, and putting it up for display, like a big outside museum. So you get to learn all this history about Robert Snyder's family, their home. There's so much nature here, all the trails. I mean, there's so much history here for everybody to learn. The natural springs, you can fish, you can just take walks. You can see where they used to drag the carts with the mules up with all the rock. I mean, it's just a really exciting place to take your family to. And I would advise, since everybody lives in Missouri, to go visit this place. It is a very, very good place to visit with your family. As you can see, there is a map here that shows you where to go, what places you can visit, and here's a picture here of the castle before it burned, and then there's some pictures of the ruins, and all this is on display like I said, like one big museum. And I hope you're able to take your families and visit this place. And if you'd like to do any more research, I found my sources at the speech101.com, and I found it at americanlegends.com and missouristake.com. These are all great websites to give you plenty of information, and you can research this property and enjoy it as much as me and my family. Thank you, and have a good night.